All right.
Okay.
Okay. Once again, we're here. Uh, we've made it another week.
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh. Well, this week's podcast is going to be brought to you by Netflix's descent into reality television and general COVID angst.
This week's podcast is also brought to you by House Confusion and COVID exhibitionism.
I'm your host, Madison.
And I'm your other host, Jesse James. Uh,
Hmm.
I had to get a new coffee machine this week because the heating element in my coffee machine died. Uh,
Yeah.
so I got a coffee machine, I think it was $16. And I also got a bunch of new brush heads for my
Oh, nice.
electric toothbrush, which was more expensive than the coffee machine. Uh, but the coffee machine is good,
Yeah.
and it's one cup in space smaller than the carafe from the last coffee machine, which doesn't matter at all. But it was the only option they had that was just flip a button and heat the element. Because I've had really bad luck with coffee machines that are like overly complex and start to fuck up just somewhere else. If it's just a radiator that you're flipping on, essentially, I'm fine with that. But, and I got that shipped pretty quickly from Target, I think. So that was
Nice.
that was nice.
Yeah, I think one thing that's been interesting in the light of all the Amazon protesting and strikes and generally trying not to order things off of Amazon,
Yeah.
it made me realize, oh yeah, these people these places actually ship it. You
Yeah.
can always just buy it directly from the business. So, yeah.
I mean, for now, until our post office disappears.
Yeah. uh, buy some stamps.
Yeah, I guess so. Fuck. Uh, that uh, that whole thing is really frustrating because it seems like a direct shitting on of old people because they have the most to lose from the post office not being here. And you would think that that would be getting them on our side a little bit, but I haven't seen a lot of that yet.
There's a lot of you would think that would get them on our side, but no. Going on.
It could be better.
It could. I can't complain, but I can, so.
Yeah.
Mm.
I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but my roommate is stuck in a spot where he is going from his boyfriend's place for a quarantine duration, and then here at our apartment for a quarantine duration, because that's the best option that we could get to for like being safe. Because if any symptoms show up, granted, none of the three of us have contact with anybody else, so that generally works out fine. But at the same time, like, it's still a risk if we're like pushing it, and then we still have to go to the store and stuff. So, like, keeping it as like safe as possible, but the what was I gonna say? The shift has just happened. So as of about an hour ago or less, I am back to being a solo
single
person
solitary man
for the next couple weeks, which I think is probably more comfortable when it comes to like not working or anything like that. since most of my busyness sort of uses me in a lot of space, a lot of like large paintings and stuff like that, which I have not worked on hardly at all over the course of this 2 weeks because of like not wanting to be in the way of literally every other thing a person could do.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to be able to work on that stuff again. I am less excited because when he left, he took all the juice. So
No.
while I still have sake, I do not have any mixers, which, is a bummer.
Is that sake or is that water?
It's sake.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I wouldn't drink water out of that. It's disgusting.
I unfortunately don't have any interesting drinks at the moment. Although yesterday I did have a 4-pack of the Bud Light Michelada.
Oh, good.
so,
Yeah,
so that was a plus.
that's the drink of choice that you want.
Yep. For me, yes, that is my drink of choice. But we did manage to get a little package of like olives and cheese and some oil stuff. So I got them because I have tried the just like bulk olives that you can get at like Fred Meyer and I don't know where else does it, like Trader Joe's probably, but and they've always been good. So I had some high hopes, and they're okay, but they're not amazing. But for COVID olives, they're fine.
Also, olives are like one of the few things that I can eat 1 or 2 of and feel really good about it.
Yeah.
So in that way, I think they're probably great COVID food.
Yeah, for sure.
I am glad that I didn't have the will and the time to set up because I was considering doing my attempt at like a wing.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel like it would have been a little too samesies. People wouldn't have been able to tell us apart.
I would have liked that though. I mean, mine. Actually filmed my getting ready because I was gonna edit it together for another Instagram video, but I don't know. This is the first makeup that I've done in probably a week and a half. Also, the first like clothes that I put on in a week and a half. So I'm. It feels good to do that, I guess, but I don't know that I'm confident in it enough to be like, "Hey, Instagram, I did it."
It's probably worth waiting till like day 2 or 3 just to like get the confidence. I feel like the whole essence of that style of tutorial video also is being super overconfident to show how good your work is. So you want to have that built up before you just start putting it up.
Yeah, well, mine aren't meant to be. I guess they're kind of tutorials because I don't really know what else to call it. I would just call it like a get ready with me because I'm definitely not trying to imply that other people should do their makeup in the same way.
Yeah.
If you'll notice in any videos, like the camera's pretty far away because I fuck up quite frequently. Like my eyeliner's all fucked up today, but whatever, it's fine.
I actually would really like more videos where people fuck things up and then like show you how they're trying to fix it.
Oh, I could supply those all day long.
I feel like those, in the same way that like artist sketch videos and things like that, those would be more interesting to watch. Like if it's not for the purpose of tutorial, having it be for the purpose of like process seems very interesting. Just to me.
That's a good idea. Yeah, maybe my next Instagram video, whatever thing, should be how to fix an extremely fucked up eyeliner. So I have some experience with that.
I would be into that. Though, I don't know, I also watch makeup videos that are just extremely elaborate sometimes, so, it just depends. I think it's all got good merit behind it. Speaking of, I don't know, slowly prettying something up, that's a bad transition. In a lot of the time that I wasn't spending painting over the last week or so, I was playing the new Animal Crossing because, along with my roommate, that game migrates here. So I got a little ways. I got to having a second room, which is always a good benchmark, and I got some good design elements. So I was pretty happy about that.
I saw some of them on Instagram. They're very nice.
I'm going to tell you why that's being attacked in a moment, but first I have to go pick up something. Okay. So I will be back. You should tell people about something that you are upset about.
I should tell people what? Sorry, you lagged down. Oh, he's already gone. Okay, well, I didn't hear what I was supposed to talk about. I have so many airheads. Oh, I know what I'll talk about. Okay, so Evan and I received from his mother an Easter basket full of Easter candy, and in it were shimmery mini eggs, which I've never seen, and I opened them, and honestly, it's a little bit disappointing. I mean, there's a little bit of shine, but, if you're going to label something shimmery or glittery, much like I feel like how this should be in the makeup world, if you're going to label it shimmer, glitter, the shimmer and the glitter needs to be there, and it's not with these mini eggs, but they do still taste good, so I would give them a 3 out of 5. You have returned.
Ooh, is that a robin's egg?
It's a mini egg, but right before you left, you lagged out really hard, and I did not hear what I was supposed to talk about.
Oh, perfect.
So I just talked about these mini eggs.
You know what? That's better. I just got dropped off some cinnamon rolls, I think. Ooh. Unless I open this and there's poop inside. From a mutual friend of ours. Oh, very nice.
Ooh, nice. That looks good.
Somebody that you went to college with and that I work with is driving around and dropping off cinnamon roll packages for people while they're in quarantine, which is pretty cool.
Oh, that's so nice. Yeah. Awesome.
I'll just go ahead and hit some of this.
So I was telling people about these mini eggs that we got in our Easter baskets from Evan's mom. And we got a package of shimmer mini eggs.
Huh.
They claim to be shimmery. And, I mean, they're kind of a little. Like, you can sort of see a
There's a tiny bit. Ah, damn it.
But I was complaining.
That they weren't shimmery enough?
Yeah, they're just like, if you're gonna say it's glittery and shimmery, it should be like blinding, or like it should really, be eye-catching.
I would prefer it. I use a lot of gold luster dust in my baking. Yeah. And shimmery is important.
Yes. So.
I made a cake not long ago that I found out you can overuse luster dust, obviously, and make things
that
look
would like not plastic. Be obvious to me.
It looked like that weird shimmer plastic that they make My Little Ponies out of.
Oh. All right. Okay.
It tasted fine though. Like, it doesn't affect the flavor.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Um, so what I was going to talk about having to do with Animal Crossing,
Mm-hmm.
uh, I guess to preface, uh, there is absolutely no reason anybody should read The Atlantic. The Atlantic is a bad paper and a bad website. It very occasionally will have like some story that is, I don't know, of relative importance, but it's pretty much just it's a pretty biased paper and not really a great place to get news if you're not like elderly and already predisposed. It is a very Florida lifestyle kind of paper, I would say. And they, I don't really care who these people are. Like, it's written by somebody who has a general, like, look at, like, interactive media and has a college degree, and that's about all I care about. But they're a contributing writer to The Atlantic, and they wrote a story about how when their kid was, I think the story went up yesterday, when their kid was young, they had them play like the original Animal Crossing when they were like stuck at home, like sick or during the summer or some shit like that, because they realized that it taught good values, and by good values they mean um, like capitalism essentially. They go down this list of like, well, it's great because you're constantly working towards like a better home, and you're able to like buy all the things that you like the look of, and if you find rare stuff you can sell it for more. It's basically the argument of like uh, I don't know why assholes can still misinterpret video games, but also like it's a good reminder that both Japan and Nintendo are working off of the same capitalist system we are, and they make media in that vein. So like, of course it has those as basic points of it. They're video games as well. Uh, like having something that you work towards is part of like how you get catharsis from something like that. So it makes sense. But this article, that's how it starts off, but it's essentially saying that now they're reconsidering whether or not it was actually good to show their kids that when they were younger, because in the new one, it is encouraging things like, well, you can earn money without working that hard, and you can like live whatever lifestyle you want and still do things. And they're like upset because there are cell phones now that act like actual cell phones, and like having a different kind of currency that lets you slowly it because they essentially do have a different currency that is sort of a cross between social currency and like a mobile game where you get things for doing things. You don't necessarily have to sell something to make a currency, but in order to get what is considered money in that game, you're still selling things. And oftentimes, a lot of people talk about like the storage limits being a pain in the ass, but like for my opinions at least, having a storage limit sort of pushes you into choosing the things you actually care about, and then taking the things, and literally they have a system in place to make it friendly still, where if you sell things that you don't want because you need money more than you like want it, or space, you need money or space more than you want that thing, which is honestly a good lesson, I think, if you're actually looking for lessons in something like an Animal Crossing. They sort of they give you like a buyback system. I think that even existed in the first game, where once you have owned something, as long as it is not an extremely like precious item that is hard to get like hold of, you can buy it back. Like
Yeah.
they've always had that sort of online shopping aspect of the game because like it came out like around the same time the internet started turning into packages and stuff like that were available. Like what the first one came out in 2001, so it was essentially following along with online shipping as like a part of people's lives. And the the idea that that is somehow teaching people something bad is interesting. Uh, but my favorite part is that they call up somebody else who I think also is in sort of their same circle of like sort of weird conservative newspaper friends. And they make the claim that, what is it? Yeah, their quote is, "It is the most boring, long-winded, repetitive, condescending, infantile bullshit we've ever seen." And then he asked, "Do people find comfort in tedious, bureaucratic, pandering authoritarianism?" uh, so that is a quote that is emotionally delivered, according to this article, over the new Animal Crossing game. And that seems like an overreaction from old people playing video games, I would say.
Which is funny because old people like games like Farmville, which are literally that.
Uh-huh. Yeah, pay in your time spent currency so you have the ability to potentially get money from the things that your shitty farm grows. Like, I don't understand why that would be any different. It doesn't have more freedom in that system. Anyway, the argument is essentially that it is creating like a something reminiscent to like a terrible like oligarchy or something. But the reason why I looked at this in the first place is their image that they chose, which I think is extremely funny.
Oh my god.
So I guess, you know, fall of ancient civilization due to whatever they feel, and Animal Crossing are very similar. Literally, the only noticeable difference in Animal Crossing compared to the old games is that this one is more able to give you something to do at all times. Like, if it's nighttime in the old games, because it has a real-time like day-night cycle, all of the stores were closed, so you couldn't like interact with those, and all of the people went to sleep. So like I actually like the idea of taking those things away as they would be taken away in real life. If, like this new game, you still provide people with the things that are available to you, which is like working privately and doing things like you can redecorate and you can like walk around and get things accomplished without the help of other people. Like I think that is still something that you would think appeals to people who are more like free markety, but and they briefly touch on the idea of, because there is crafting and they don't give you any rules on how that works, so you're essentially taking resources from everything around you. It sort of leaves you to fuck yourself over if you are too greedy and like strip mine your island. And I think that as something you could take a lesson from is useful. The part where it gets convoluted is, in order to make that a game that you can continue playing, you can travel on like discrete islands by using your like social currency to like fly around, and you never go back to those islands. So it's sort of implicit that if you want to take all the resources from here, you can. And that's sort of a workaround, but it's also like, if you want something morally ambiguous or evil, that's what you should look at. And they act like, well, there's no lesson to be learned here if you strip mine your own island. But they don't talk about the weird, like, traveling to other places and strip mining other people's stuff with no consequences, because that looks bad for, everything we actually do. But that being said, Animal Crossing is very good. Also, I use Animal Crossing as a fashion simulator. And I potentially something that could maybe work for our Instagram. I do have some photos of Jesse's Exotic. Which,
yes, please.
I think that's a very useful image for explaining why this game is so good.
Yeah, for sure. It's not surprising to me that I think that just speaks to how bored everyone is right now, that people are writing think pieces about how Animal Crossing is bad.
Polluting our children's minds.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a fun time for stuff like that, but
you sound like
wish
you're
I
having a
had.
fun time.
Yeah, I'm bummed. I wish I had Animal Crossing so bad.
Yeah. I'll say it's only been gone for an hour, and I wish I had it too. It'll be more productive for me without it, so like I'm fine. But I'm gonna miss out.
Yeah, I wish I've been taking all of the time that I would be spending playing Animal Crossing and just been spending it playing Don't Starve, which in my mind is like scary Animal Crossing, not at all, but
it has elements, but it's like if Animal Crossing had a gun to your head.
Exactly. And it's been like kind of fun, but also I don't know. I did break my record for days alive. I think it was like 50 something, so that's great. Finally made it through the winter, which I thought was supposed to be like the hard part. Absolutely not. It's turns out the hard part is the raining frogs if you turn on that setting. I don't recommend it.
I don't think I've seen that happen yet. What does that do?
It like in the spring when it starts to rain and there's like the lightning and shit, it starts to rain frogs. Frogs just will start populating in like the grassy areas.
And the frogs are the assholes who just attack you if you get close to them, right?
Yeah. They not only attack you, but when they attack you, you drop your stuff.
Yeah, like, they like stuff. Lick your stuff off you.
Yeah,
but not in the good way.
Yes.
I don't know. Sometimes I say things and then I remember that they're disgusting. Anyway, I like that game a lot. I do think so. You now own Starbound. I think if you are looking for a game that is not Animal Crossing, but is weirdly similar in some ways, that's probably going to help a little bit. The downside is Animal Crossing, it takes like maybe an hour to be like fully in the game.
Mm-hmm.
This is similar, but there's, instead of building new facilities that give you more like things you can do, you are left more up to crafting. So like in order to, not really spoilers, but like minor gameplay elements, I guess. Over the course of Starbound, you start as like a character who gets pushed out and like lost in space, essentially. And your first major missions are to collect almost Minecraft-y, like a set of materials that you need on a planet that you're stranded on. And those materials are, like, it's a lot of different crafting. That's why it's similar to something like Don't Starve.
Yeah, I like that kind of.
And everything about that game is essentially crafting and learning. And then the, like, enemies that do exist are essentially just roadblocks on occasion to what you actually want, which is more weird shit. The main problem I have with that game and why I play Animal Crossing instead when I have the chance is that it doesn't have that much interest in the clothing in terms of its look because the characters are so small. But the actual like equipment and things like that you can build are, I would say, very similar to like the crafting in the new Animal Crossing, where you are making things that you can build a chair and sit in it, and you can build like tables and things like that and place things on them the way you like aesthetically. You can build different walls and like interiors, and you build people homes more directly. So like if you hollow out a piece of earth and build like, I think it is, it's like a chair, a table, a light source, and a door are required, but anything past that can turn it into a different kind of structure and a different kind of person might move in. It's got a lot of that kind of stuff. You literally open up after like an hour or two the ability to buy deeds, kind of. They're like a transporter hub, or like a tag. You put something on the wall in somebody's house, and then somebody is allowed to move in there, but you don't know who. So if you were to say put a kitchen set of something that you've built or found in a building and then put a tag on the wall, somebody will like work down Star Trek style, but with like a chef hat on and start selling you food. It's very weird, but those are the kinds of things that in the past, because I'm always like at least 5 years behind on video games, that is pretty much like the type of thing I seek out for, like, you know, making it more interesting while I wait for the access to things that people think are old now. Side note, I've been playing like the remake of Wind Waker that came out like 4 years ago. And I guess I have been playing some new stuff, but like, I don't know, Persona's not really new. It just has a new iteration that came out. Anyway, video games are important because we're all stuck at home.
Yes, they're very important.
Yeah.
I bought Elder Scrolls, but I still haven't installed it.
And this is Skyrim, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Still haven't done that. I need to just start it before I go to bed and let it go, but I keep forgetting.
I think it's only like 20 gigs, right? Like, it is big, but it's not like huge for a video game.
I think it's just more our internet. It'll just take a long time.
Well, we do live in the United States, so that's what we're
and
working.
Everybody's on their internet right now.
Yeah. So. I think the last thing that I downloaded was Civilization 6, and it's like the entire download of it is like 10 gigs.
Yeah.
And I let that run overnight because, like, I'm not going to fucking sit around and watch that bar fill up.
Oh, that's a good game. I think
watch the bar fill up?
Yeah.
Civilization is fantastic before you go to sleep, I've found. As long as you have the willpower to stop playing it. I'm not going to act like I didn't have a night a couple weeks ago where I was like, I'm gonna like try to get through this age, which usually takes like, I don't know, an hour. And I like went to bed at 6 in the morning, like, oh God, what happened?
Yeah.
But Russia can kiss my ass, and I had to show them what was up. I'm trying to win a scientific victory, so like these assholes keep like starting wars with people, and then all my trade deals get disrupted, and I can't like get the stuff I need for science anymore.
God damn it, Russia! Could you just lay off, please?
The envoy system and all that stuff that they added for like the final version of what Civ 6 is, that game's probably the best one of those that exists, like that style of game. But I played on the PS4, so it actually runs okay. There's a lot of stuff that is better on the PC for that game, but it runs so slowly that unless you're very confident that your computer can handle like higher resolutions and stuff,
Yeah.
it's a little shaky. I tried playing it like it wasn't a demo. I was playing it on PC at some point on like a laptop, and I had to bust the resolution down to like, I think it was like 1080 somewhere in there, which is fine, but it like makes the UI bigger and like just doesn't look as nice. And it ran pretty good, but my fans were on most of the time, and I don't like playing things on a laptop where my fans have to run that much. So,
yeah,
another good quarantine game though, for sure.
I think we have the Civ 5 for PS3 is what I have. So that's
Civ
pretty
5's
fun.
really good. I would still play that too, for sure.
Yeah.
It also is. There are things about 6 that are a little more user-friendly in a way that takes away from some stuff. But like, there's like, I think the governor system is improved quite a bit, and that type of stuff. It almost has like a Warcraft 3 element. Like they almost have like hero qualities where you're getting like some pretty substantial benefits, but it also has the problem of if you're playing and you don't work towards like those political goals, you can become a little unbalanced the other way and not be able to accomplish things or not defend yourself when you get attacked, kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Also, Russia builds all the world wonders, including a 120 turn world wonder that I thought I was the only one who had access to, and they built it the turn before it finished for me. And I had been building it for like an evening, and it was the most frustrating thing ever. Like, it was on one turn, and it started the little globe spin to show you that, like, oh, finishing up this turn, and then it disappeared off the map, and a thing came up that was like, Russia beat you to it.
No.
Fucking assholes.
Okay. This is a departure from the current topic, but I'm sending you a few images.
All right. I'm ready to receive.
Per your suggestion.
Oh, God. Is that where the images came from?
The garrison? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. There were a couple that I thought were cool.
What the fuck does this first one mean?
The first comic?
The chart?
Oh, the chart. Okay, that one is a chart counting the cases of COVID in Michigan, or sorry, Wisconsin.
Yeah. Okay, I was gonna say that's not a comic, but that looks dire.
Yeah, so I might be able to post this on Instagram later if it's interesting to anyone. But basically this graph shows from the 18th, from March 18th to April 1st, like pretty steep incline as far as COVID cases go in Wisconsin. And then they start to like peter off a little bit. And then on the April 7th, we have the election. And then you have about 5 days, which, fun fact, is the incubation period of COVID.
At least the median incubation. Yeah.
And then we have that.
Yeah. Who would have thought? Yeah, I mean, we talked about that at length last time, I think, but like, fuck everybody involved in that.
I think just seeing it on a graph and like seeing it be real, and yeah, I just
you really picked some gems from the Ben Garrison action. I think it's important, if we're going to talk at all about Ben Garrison, also to tell people up front, Ben Garrison is a terrible comicer he is also a total piece of shit. Like, you might consider yourself conservative, but you're probably not conservative like Ben Garrison is. Did you enjoy just the whole aesthetic of his Twitter feed? It's basically like my masochist like hangout spot. So I thought I'd share that.
Yeah, it was pretty unfortunate. I was surprised actually in his replies. There are not a lot of people like arguing. It's mostly just people being like, "Yay, yes."
It's because assholes like me who just go through there and like look at all of it are like the only people who are going to care about Ben Garrison. He is not worth caring about is the main thing, but it does show very clearly the mindset that people have, and he is a well-known and respected political cartoonist for the right wing, which is sort of the problem. Like, that's why looking through his stuff has things like retweets from James Woods all the time and shit like that, is because people do like his work on the conservative end of everything. But I'm sorry you had to see that, and also I'm glad you had to see that.
I really liked that. So the two that I sent you, just for people who are watching and listening, I sent one where the headline is "Signs of the Times," and it has a liquor store, an abortion clinic, and a church right next to each other. And the church is closed with a policeman guarding it, and the abortion clinic and the liquor store are still open.
Uh-huh. Do you see
like
anything wrong with that as like a comic?
No, like
I mean, it seems very accurate, right?
Seems very accurate. I love this street. I think it's a great street to live on.
Mm-hmm.
I like the assumption that's made that like people who go to church don't buy liquor.
Yeah. Also, people who go to church have never had an abortion. I think that's important.
Yeah. Just, also, I don't even know if it's worth pointing out, but I don't think there's anywhere in the United States where there are policemen standing outside barring you from going inside of your church.
I'd say, based on the so-so coverage of churches staying open, there's been a noticeable lack of any infrastructure to keep them from just infecting each other. I don't think that there's nearly enough safeguards. There certainly isn't a policeman outside because they're probably in the group of people who think that we should be in church.
Also, it's pretty interesting to see policemen being kind of like villainized, because usually these people are very pro policemen, but I guess right now in this case policemen are the government. So
yeah, no, if abortion clinics suddenly started like promoting Donald Trump, they would be on the list of good things in this country too. Like, it's not a matter of ideology at all.
Right. It's just a real fun time. And then this other one I just thought was fucking hilarious. So I actually don't even know who these people are supposed to be. Sitting on top of the Federal Reserve. In this comic, there's two people sitting on top of the Federal Reserve as like big giant people.
Well, you'll notice that he always puts labels so that you can't misread who people are.
I mean, that's unfortunately in this case not helpful to me either. But
yeah, Powell and Yellen.
I don't know who those are, but there's a pirate flag flying above the Federal Reserve, which I do like.
Yeah.
And the people are saying there is no inflation, and there's like a pipeline of money coming out, creating an ocean of money. And in this ocean of money, there's like Mr. Gold and Mrs. Silver in a canoe, like, oh no.
That is maybe my favorite. Like, that comic is perfect because it is the intersection of, like, weird conspiracy theory people and, like, the right wing. Like, it perfectly illustrates how similar they are and how intertwined they are. Because that's literally how Alex Jones started, was trying to sell silver and gold.
Yeah.
Like, that is the, like, grifter prepper, like original idea. And the Federal Reserve being a non-constitutional, like, there's a thing that people always say, that it was, like, set up while the government was, like, not paying attention. Like, the Federal Reserve is this big conspiracy thing of, like, no, they're trying to take our rights away with the Federal Reserve, but it never gets. They want to complain about money, but they don't want to complain about, like, capitalism, so they just complain about the Federal Reserve because that makes sense.
Yeah. Anyway, I think that's good. Just the personification of gold and silver is, like, a nice guy in, like kind of a hot lady canoe.
Also, they are very clearly, like, 20s or 30s representations of, like, guy and lady. Yeah. Like, the guy has, like, a fedora and a full suit on, and the lady is, like, stay-at-home mother from, like, a 1920s, like, poster or something.
She has, like, Jimmy Neutron's mom hair.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, the dressing up of these personified monies as, like, pre-World War U.S. I don't know. There's something about that is kind of perfect for showing what he's all about. If we could just go back to when it was even more racist and just act like it's fine, and also silver and gold were what mattered, because I guess that would fix it. Yeah, Ben Garrison's a hack, but he's a very funny hack.
Yeah, I did enjoy scrolling through him.
Did you also see, I mean, I think it's still the newest one he put up of the Bill Gates face with the very poorly animated mouth, that's just, like, using the like, what's the blur tool? It's just like a blur tool animation on his mouth, and it says COVID 1984 above his head in big letters.
Yeah.
And there's little people underneath him, like, begging for digital tattoos and stuff.
We love you, big brother.
Oh, and begging for vaccines, because anti-vaxxers are still gonna talk about that somehow, even if they definitely need them currently.
Yup.
Yup. Yeah. Also,
between reading stuff like this and then listening to Knowledge Fight and them covering Alex Jones, is like, this whole thing is made up, and also they're gonna force vaccinations on you, and it's a deep state conspiracy, but also it's China.
Yeah.
Like, my brain is just melted, I think, a little bit.
Yeah, it's the CrossFit of brain aerobics. You got to keep it confused if you want to build it up, right?
Yeah.
If you just change your whole dialogue every day, then you got to know more than the rest of the people. It's not going to be unhealthy for you.
No. The key is just gaslight the shit out of everyone that listens to you forever, and then you'll always be right, and you're always good.
Yeah, the thing that Alex Jones and Joe Biden have in common: gaslight everybody, and that'll be your path to victory. So one last thing on Ben Garrison. First off, unless you like bad stuff and you like to laugh at horrible comics, don't look into it. It's not worth it. But
it's gonna make you mad.
Yeah, it'll make you mad for sure. But I do think it's funny that his Twitter is a family business. He and his wife work together to get his Twitter in line. So she does all the writing, and he makes the comics. So she's like his Twitter production assistant.
Tina is what she
Yeah.
goes by.
Uh, man, I mean, you don't have to wonder if she's a good person or not, because clearly she's writing the same type of shit that he is for those updates. But I think it is funny that it takes two people to pull that shitstorm together.
I mean, he's a busy guy, just cranking those really quality cartoons out. You gotta.
Now, did you travel far enough down his feed to find good pictures that he has drawn of Trump?
I don't think so. I think I have seen them in the past. Doesn't he do a thing where he makes Trump like really muscular and hot somehow?
Yes, he makes Trump look like he is like from the Jersey Shore, basically.
Ugh.
And you got that picture that I put up of the very visible scalp of Trump. I just really like when you can see it. Like when he clearly hasn't had time to like get all his shit together. And then you see his like old man comb over in its like full glory.
Mm-hmm.
Garrison basically pretends like that isn't real and that he has like 20-year-old voluminous hair, and he just chooses to style it in that cool way. He basically draws him as Guile from Street Fighter.
There's something just so deeply weird about the decision to not only Ben Garrison, but I see all over Twitter people like photoshopping Trump with muscles and hot, and then he like retweets it and is like, yes, this is me. There's something so deeply weird with your psyche if you're creating those. Like, I don't understand.
I'll just send you a sample here.
Oh, good.
Sophia, I don't want any Ben Garrison images on our Twitter or our Instagram, but
oh God.
I think it's important that you see at least some of it.
Okay, I do have to say the eyebrows are pretty awesome.
Right?
He gives them like a little sweep, I like it. Political correctness is the dragon that he's slaying.
Uh-huh. Which it may as well just say, "Yay, racism is back." Like it's not. I don't know. It's a pretty transparent thing what political correctness means to Ben Garrison.
Yeah, and I like that this princess lady in the back is like, oh no, you killed it. You are a bully. You're racist and sexist. And then it releases them all fun. She's like, wow, what a hunk.
Uh-huh.
Like, yeah, that is what all women think. Deep down, we're just waiting for someone to be incredibly misogynistic.
Yeah, and use the N-word a lot. That's what people are waiting for. Man, until that moment that I thought was a joke for a second, I forgot about that recording of Trump using the N-word that they immediately dismissed as like, he could be saying anything. Anyway, I guess that was like,
even heard that.
I think that was like 2 years ago, so whatever, doesn't matter anymore, right?
Oh, you mean 50 years ago?
Yeah, 1,000 years ago when it was 2018.
Yeah.
But also talking with my roommate about, he has something about like some version of uniformity just seems like benevolent to him for whatever reason. Like that's sort of his like psyche. and he is apparently constantly stuck in when people say the year 2020, he's like, oh, that's going to be a good year, even now, because it doesn't really feel like it's like changed over. It just feels like we're in this weird crisis instead.
Yeah.
And last night he was talking about how he's constantly in this weird space of like, well, 2020 is the future and amazing, but then remembering that it is 2020 right now.
And it fucking sucks.
Yeah, and it's maybe less amazing than people would think.
I could see having hope for 2020. I mean, it just sounds like a cool year.
Yeah.
But also it sounds like a cool year for the earth to just implode. I could see that happening at this point. So,
I mean, to be fair, if the world imploded, we'd probably still all somehow be alive and just hating it even more. So, I don't know. That's probably not worth it.
yeah.
I've been listening to a story when I'm out on walks that's like an hour or so that's just about a guy stuck in like a space between realities, and it's just him talking to and going crazier a tape recorder, and it's basically just somebody talking about how they're stuck in nothingness for an hour. And it's surprisingly relaxing when you're out on like a 1 a.m. walk.
I could kind of see that.
Yeah. I think that podcast is not very good, so I'm not going to pimp it here, but occasionally they have something that is at least amusing, and that's one of them. Speaking of outdoor walks, I'm just trying to segue into something while I remember it. So I go on walks like in the early morning, usually before I go to bed, just because there's the least people and there's the best photos that you can take. Also, like last night, I think I saw 5 rabbits in different places on like a walk that really only spanned like maybe 6 blocks. So like I'm always down for that. They're just kind of hanging out. Like there's nobody like chasing them or fucking with them. So like there's rabbits all over the fucking place.
Yeah, I miss the Kirkland rabbits. They're pretty good.
And people are starting to get weird out there, I've noticed. Last night, pretty clearly a couple just like, well, nobody's outside anymore, so like we could just go to the parking lot to have sex.
Oh god.
So that's been interesting.
Wait, like in a car or just like in the parking lot?
Not in a car. There was also apparently, so Nick also went on a walk, but like a separate walk. And he said that he saw, I think he said it was like a park bench that had like socks draped over it, and there were people on it, but facing the other way in a like also compromising position. So like potentially multiple people just out, doing stuff. I hope they cleaned the bench off first. I bet they didn't. Or after, to be honest. There was also a car and a motorcycle. It was a really nice image if you like dumb things. It was a car and a motorcycle parked real close together, and then a couple standing between them just hard making out against the car, like out behind a building where nothing is because it's all businesses. So it's just randy out there. And I don't really understand it because it's one of those things that's like probably people not honoring the like shelter at home stuff. So like I'm against it, but also like it's kind of funny in a way that I'm a little bit for. Like I would rather see people and not very many people doing that than I want to see like people trying to get a whole bunch of people into like a space to like mingle, but still like I mean, there's still people walking around. It's maybe not acceptable still to just be, free flowing with
Openly.
that kind of stuff.
Maybe give it like a few more weeks before we start just like sexing each other in public.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. A little uncomfortable, but the ducks were fun. I don't know.
that's
Uh,
we got all kinds of wildlife just out and about. You can
also,
really see nature.
I know that it happens just regularly sometimes, but the birds have started chirping at like midnight now, which it used to be like 4 or 5 in the morning. I don't know what the deal is with that, but it is weird.
Interesting. We have slightly bird related. We have a woodpecker that is pecking a hole in the apartments down
Ooh.
this way from me. And it's pretty funny because like I saw him when I went to go check the mail, and I don't know why I assume it's a he. Mr. Woodpecker has a hole like this big. It's very clearly big enough for him to go through, but he's still working on it. And
Like
I
a
think it's
head-sized
really
hole.
funny.
Wait, so does it go
Yeah,
all the
it's
way
like
into
big
the
enough.
apartments?
I think so. I don't know if it's an apartment building. It's just
Okay.
like a building next to us, and I don't know if it's residential or not, but it's like towards the peak of the where the roof is, like right in the
Oh,
center. And it's like big enough for two of him to go through, and he's just still working on it. So I think that's pretty awesome.
I mean, yeah, everybody's got to deal with the isolation in their own way, right? Uh,
Yeah, it's a great way to get your anxiety.
I mean, if it's like a house, then it's probably somebody's surprise attic guest that they're gonna have soon.
That would be kind of pleasant right now. I don't think I'd turn down the company of a Mr. Woodpecker.
Yeah, well, I've got like a family of squirrels in the tree right outside my apartment,
I saw.
and they're like loud as shit. Like they just do whatever the fuck they want right now, and they like throw stuff into my yard. Like they'll go pull all of there's like a rhododendron bush or something, and they're like pulling the flowers off of it next door and bringing them into like the tree outside, and then like pulling shit off of them and tossing them at the ground. So I'll be like in the living room, and it's warm enough to where like the windows are open most of the time now, and I'll just hear like thud and look outside, and there's like flowers being thrown onto the ground from the tree. And they also are like hiding stuff in the rocks underneath the tree. So I'll hear like what sounds like somebody walking around in the like tiny little like enclosed-ish area we have here, and they'll like skitter down the tree and then like start moving rocks around and like pull stuff out and like go back up the tree with it. They're very loud for what you would expect squirrels to be doing. Thankfully, we're like not towards the top of our building. There's like 2 people above us, so if they do fuck with the house, which squirrels do pretty regularly, it probably won't affect us any. So I'm allowed to just sort of enjoy them while the people on the top of the building are probably worried that they're going to get woodpeckered.
Do they have like? Is there a nest?
I think there is like a nest that they have built in the tree somewhere, but it's not near the bottom of the tree, and the tree's like taller than the building, so I have no idea. It's also one of those trees that's like, I hope they never cut it down, but it's like as big around as a car, so it's probably sturdy enough to stay where it is for a good long while.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also, they built a like maybe chest to waist high, depending on like where you are along it, like just big stones together wall, because we're on like a hill, so it kind of changes how much it covers. Oh, there's a squirrel now. Oh, it's grabbing more flowers off their bush. Good. But The stones come up and then rest against the tree, so it's like part of our like embankment wall and part of what is sort of bordering the driveway that goes up the side of our building.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of almost foundational to this building in a weird way. Um, but I enjoy it very much. It's a good tree. Uh, if I have any psychosis during this whole thing, it's that I'm just turning into an animist slowly and enjoying all of the things that aren't people a lot more.
Yeah, I kind of hope you get squirrel babies. Squirrel babies are pretty fun.
Yeah, I like squirrels in general. They're real assholes. They're like big rats, but they're not as smart, and I can respect that.
Yeah, we actually, when I was still living at home, we had a, a squirrel nest or something going up in one of our trees, and one of the babies like fell,
Yeah,
and so we like nursed it for a while, and that was a really fun couple of weeks, and they're really cute, and
yeah.
they're like hamsters,
Those shits
but
are cute as hell.
yeah, yeah, they are.
Uh, Same thing happened with both a chicken and a rabbit while I was little. They didn't fall out of a tree, but one got, I think, sideswiped by a hawk on
Oh,
our like land, and the rabbit, a bunch of shithead kids at there's a park out by Green Lake in Seattle where there's like a unofficial headstone for Kurt Cobain that we used to go to when I was little, and it's right next to a hill with rabbits in it, and we used to go there to just check out the rabbits because there was literally like a hill that was about like I don't know 4 feet tall and just a bunch of burrows in it.
mm-hmm.
And so a lot of people would go there and just watch the rabbits and stuff. But there was a group of kids that were like throwing rocks at them one day, and they had hit one, and it was like pretty young. And my family and I like grabbed it in a shoebox, and uh, we took care of it for like I had it in my room basically during part of a summer, I think. And
That's
then
nice.
it seemed fine when we took it back. The other rabbits weren't shitty to it that we could tell. Uh, so I'm just going to believe that that's how it stayed. But I don't know. Rabbits are incredibly friendly, and our cat, both of our cats were pretty nice to it. So I don't know. Seemed all right.
Mm, yeah.
A lot nicer. I had a lot of weird pets growing up, and a lot of them were like whatever the cheapest pets were, because that was sort of our whole like position on money. Uh, the cats were not nearly as nice to the snakes that I had briefly, that were just like
Oh.
tiny garter snakes, but they didn't get a chance to attack them. But cats and snakes are not friends. Uh,
Also, cats and lizards. We had some unfortunate lizard
oh,
incidents.
uh,
Uh,
yeah, never had a lizard. At least not a lizard.
we lived in southern Idaho, and so we had a bunch of like the little guys, the blue belly lizards. I don't know if that's what they're actually called, but yeah, we had the cat just show up one day into one of our rooms with one of the lizards in his mouth, and the lizard was fine, but he was just like, help. So yeah, they don't get along super well, but it's a fun.
at
They're
least
fun pets.
At least they were okay. That's not how I would have expected that to go down.
It didn't always end that way.
Oh, okay.
That was just one particular time. But
Fair enough. Um, I had a box turtle for a while, which is why I ended up like trying mealworms when I was a kid, and uh,
like the
often,
dehydrated ones.
yeah, those are the ones I ate. I didn't eat a wet one because that's not very appealing to me. But um, the the crickets were another thing we fed to them, and that's part of why when we eventually did move out around like I think I was like 11 or 12 out of the city into like cheaper places where we could also like board horses and stuff. That part of my life, having like crickets around a little bit outside, was very pleasant. But it was because I had lived with a turtle that just had them in its cage sometimes. So it would be like crickets chirping like right next to my head while I was asleep.
That's nice. I like
Yeah,
that.
it was pretty good. They're loud if you're close enough to them, and I don't mind it. But I don't know. Cats and turtles, at least our cats, were pretty good because turtles are like a little bigger when it comes to like the types of like lizards and stuff you can have, and cats don't seem to have any interest in like, I don't know, attacking them because they're just hard like living rocks mostly.
Yeah.
And my cat would come up and just kind of tap on the top of it, and then it would like go into its shell and come back out, and then it would tap on the top and it would do it again. I don't know. It was funny to watch them do shit because the turtle, I don't know, it didn't seem stressed out. It just seemed like it was kind of like annoyed maybe. And then the cat like was clearly very curious, but also like extremely afraid of the turtle. But what was there's something that I had a transition for in there, and then I totally ignored that transition and moved on. Well,
is it hard to transition from turtles to the next thing?
I think so. Yeah, something about turtles doesn't transition into much, except so now that our movie nights are potentially 2 nights a week, did you hear what Tuesday's movie night is probably going to be yet?
No. It's turtle related, though?
It sounds like we're probably going to watch the 90s Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles sequel.
Okay. Okay.
If you want the perfect encapsulation of terrible movie and like 90s flavor, that's pretty much perfect for it.
That sounds good. I can get on board with that.
It'll be a nice palate cleanser to Tiger King, which we watched the last half of yesterday.
Yep.
So that's fun. I don't have a lot to say about it. It's pretty similar to the first half, really. I wish there was more follow-up on more of the people in terms of like, I don't know, their lives getting worse, because I feel like even if they technically raided
Doc
Dr. Doc Ansel, his whole deal, it doesn't sound like anything happened to him.
No.
And it probably should have, because it seems like that guy's probably a rapist, etc. And has like a weird polygamy thing going, and also probably is not any better to his animals than either of the other fucking weirdos that they show in that.
Right.
But I don't know. It is.
I think I missed the first time around watching it, the part where Joe basically did kind of a 180 once he got into jail and was like, I'm going to help you take all these fuckers down. Because, like, if I can't do it, nobody's going to do it. And so I really liked that part. I think I didn't really catch that the first time around. But, yeah, Doc Antle definitely needs his own something to happen, but because
he just needs like a law-based show. He doesn't need a documentary. He needs somebody to like pop some like undercover cop into his establishment. Like,
I wouldn't be surprised if they've tried to do something like that, because that was one of the things that showed up at the end, is that it's just said that it was rated. I don't know what that means. But hopefully
the main problem with getting somebody into his place is it sounds like in order to work there you have to fuck him, and I don't think that's gonna go over great.
Yeah, probably not the best undercover gig of all time.
It reminds me of the when they were trying to like get dirt on what it was when they were basically going after gay people as like illegal and like sodomites and stuff. It wasn't in San Francisco, but it was somewhere. There's a dollop on it. It might have been on the East Coast. And they were sending cops in undercover that were like actively having gay sex with all these guys. And the reporting was like really iffy. So they didn't really get anything that they could use, but they did definitely put a bunch of cops in positions where they were just having gay sex with these like gay sex clubs and stuff constantly.
Hell
which
yeah.
sounds more like you had a bunch of gay cops who were like totally down to go hang out with all these gay guys and like have a life that they actually enjoyed for a minute.
And get paid to do it.
Exactly.
That's fucking awesome.
So I guess my advice is if that kind of state gets rolled in by our current establishment or the next one, I guess become a cop and then act like you're going to go do stings if you're gay, because that's your best option, it sounds like.
Oh no, go to the gay nightclub. Fine, I guess.
Oh, gross. Yeah.
With all the gays, ugh, I better be getting paid real good for this.
I'm going to have to buy a lot of trap leather pants to convince them that I'm gay enough.
Oh, that's, yeah, maybe we need to take that approach with Dog Hansel, but I hope there's some repercussions at some point.
Yeah. Speaking of repercussions, where on social media, etc., can people reach us if they want to ask us questions and whatnot?
You can reach us and follow the general goings on of this podcast at Vegeta42069 on Instagram. And also, we do have an email account, and it's thisweekspodcast@gmail.com.
Excellent. Man, when you're doing unemployment stuff, Gmail accounts become a fucking minefield of stress. Also, I had some consolidation help from a lawyer like 4.5 years ago for like student loan stuff, so that I had a more official voice keeping like creditors and stuff from trying to like call me every 10 minutes, which was basically my life for like 5 years. And I will say, if you haven't lived a life of creditors calling you over something that's literally like just your position in life and not something you've done wrong, that ruins your life incredibly quickly, and they do not give up ever. Not like give up like, no, I'm not going to pay that, but give up like, hey, just give us more money kind of situation. So that was stressful in and of itself, because like contacting me and my co-signers / my last loan for college was through my parents alone. So like she contacted both of us, and it honestly, I think from her description, she is working with like something that's really beneficial of trying to work on a case directly having to do with like the student loan, not establishment, but like the body that sort of governs student loans, and like dealing with, I don't know, not a lot of details. It sounds like it is a beneficial thing for people that she is looking into this, and that it's a case that she is working on, but it's still very stressful to have that pop back up when it's like me being in like income-driven repayments, where it's like, I can deal with this. If anything changes, I'll still be fucked, but as long as it's income-based repayments for the rest of my life, it's like a Netflix account that I can never get rid of and I get no benefit from, so I guess that's okay. But that and the unemployment stuff of all of the language, if you're not somebody who's dealing with that right now, in unemployment benefit things, at least in Washington State, I imagine it is probably actually better than some other states. All of the language is like, this isn't our responsibility and it might not happen. And also, it's just sort of a suggestion on all this stuff and it can go away at any time. But here's the benefits that you're probably going to get. Like, that's every email you get from them is like the most non-committal, like,
yeah,
I don't know, maybe you'll get some money in the mail. But also the money that you get really reminds me of the money that, did you hear the statements from Steve Mnuchin recently, like 2 days ago, I think?
I don't think so.
It kind of mirrors something from not that long ago. I think like Bush presidency stuff, so actually a long time ago. He made a statement that the stimulus that they provided already, the one that's getting fucked up, and that if you're overdrafted, they can take, or if you owe money to somebody, they can take that stimulus. That $1,200 for people with generally low incomes like us, that should be enough for people to survive for 10 to 12 months on. That seems, or not months, 10 to 12 weeks. So like 2.5 to 3 like months. $1,200 sounds like it should fix that, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah, sure. Yep.
Yeah. So it's nice to always know that not only do they not care about us in like an establishment sense, they're so out of touch that they think that, I guess, generally people's rent is, what would that be? Like $400 would be too much for rent because then you couldn't eat. So I'm going to say like maybe $250 for rent. So they're only working like 40 years in the past if you live in a terrible place. It's pretty fun.
Yeah. God. Yeah, that's does really show a willing, what's the phrase? Willing ignorance to not understand the current situation that people actually are in.
Yeah, you would think that would have an impact on their constant claim that they are the most in touch with reality and that everybody else, it's the kids who are the problem. It's that that weird like right-wing way of asking questions of like, so are you a socialist because you're evil, or are you evil because you're a socialist? Is that which one of these two options is true? I feel like that really comes out when you hear like statements on how poor people are interacting with the way our government works in general, which is fun. I guess to concentrate all of the negative energy. Unlike the group that I talked about like 2 weeks ago, that literally is a government-funded group that keeps track of like civil rights, like civilrights.org. That's where I'm talking about. This one is just like a, I don't know. It's like a pseudo government entwined think tank kind of thing. So take it with like a grain of salt, I guess. But they do seem like they are doing pretty good work, and they're like a nonprofit. So if that means anything to you, and it's the Center for Economic and Policy Research. They do pretty good work, but I think it's always better if those groups are like, I don't know, at least somewhat involved in a more official capacity, because even if you're a nonprofit, it does kind of raise some red flags for me, I guess. That being said, slight grain of salt in play. They keep an eye on a lot of like, policy adjustments and the way people in government are using policies. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that they are talking about just in the last day or two is apparently Nancy Pelosi is not allowing for remote voting for anything in the house. And that relates back to my sponsor of House Confusion. It sounds like there is a decent chance that it is to avoid having any like votes that she sees as unnecessary, for the purpose of like avoiding progressive voices having any real power during any of this stuff, because they're the ones who would probably push for things like everything that would benefit us as actual citizens. But it's good to know that the recent elections that are causing a uptick in COVID infections is also how they're handling stuff in the House of Representatives. And because they're not willing to get sick and shouldn't be willing to get sick, there's just not votes really happening, which also means that all of the stimulus package stuff and a lot of that like work that needs to be done isn't getting voted on or being like given proper oversight by the House by design, because the Speaker of the House is not allowing for it. So that's worth pointing out. Like, also in the realm of bipartisanship, I do not like the sort of centralized Democrat group either. Like, I know that we talk a lot more shit about like the right wing on this podcast, but I do think that the way that things are being run by the left wing and specifically the like center left wing, that is like the Empower group, is pretty terrible, and that's a pretty good example of it. Also in reference to like pushing Sanders out by using the like threat of infecting people and like sort of recirculating COVID in areas that have been safer by having these elections and stuff like that, is pretty clear when you hear that it's also being used to keep progressive voices out of the conversation for something like what we're currently dealing with. So at least for context clues, maybe look at like the Speaker of the House and the group that is around her as well, if you have some problems with the way things are being handled. And I know that nobody's going to beat her most likely in California for these elections and stuff anytime soon, but like it would be great if we could have somebody else representing the Democrats in like the most powerful position they currently have, because right now it's being misused pretty heavily for the purpose of status quo shit, which clearly is not working. Anyway, that's my shit sandwich I wanted to throw into the middle of all of that political talk.
Yeah, but did you see her riff of that speech though? That was, you know,
that doctored.
That was really something.
Fuck. Isn't that also on Ben Garrison's Twitter? I'm pretty sure I saw it on there.
Probably. I don't know.
The image of her ripping the Bill of Rights in half that people are acting like is real now, because people are fucking idiots.
I did see that.
Yeah. Also, that thing that she ripped in half that she then voted to like maintain later.
Yeah. I mean, that really sums it up very well, I think.
Yeah.
The current situation. So.
You been eating anything interesting?
Just olives. We did order a pizza last night to spice things up.
Man, I've been getting so many goddamn emails from pizza places during this.
Once this is over, like, so many fast food places will have my email. It is shameful. Like, Taco Bell is sending me shit. I get, like, push notifications from Taco Bell now. It's horrible.
Oh, shit. I didn't even consider. So, like every time we have this podcast, I really want a burger. and I don't have any reason to go outside today. Like, I will likely go for a walk at some point, but there's almost no chance of me going to a store today because, like, as much as I wish we had mimosa fixins and stuff like that, it's just not a wise decision, and I am set for food for a little while anyway. And now that I'm the only one in the house, I'm literally set for, like, quite a bit. But that being said, I might be willing to, with the knowledge that I won't be trying to pay rent based solely on, like, stimulus, and do have an incredibly meager unemployment because they base it off of before I got, like, a $5 raise.
Oh.
Yeah, it's fun. But it will technically pay most of my rent if I don't spend any money on anything else. But that means that I can make at least one or two dumb decisions when it comes to, like, let's say grandmother sent me some money for Easter. And what I might want to do with that money for Easter is buy a hamburger and have somebody drive it to my house. I mean, let's just say that happens.
That seems like really probably good. The best way to celebrate Easter.
Yeah.
Now that it's over.
A holiday I don't care about that isn't current.
Yeah.
Man, that sounds super good, and they would also probably grab it before it got cold, which is the problem I've been having on the times that I have tried it, even when it wasn't a crisis. Man, that sounds good. And I have cinnamon rolls, so, like, you know. And I have... I'm not going to open this or use it. This is...
Warhead hand sanitizer?
Yeah, I got some Warhead hand sanitizer. Technically, my roommate has some Warhead hand sanitizer, but if you notice up in that top corner what it says...
Alcohol-free.
Alcohol-free, so you know it's going to help.
Yeah, for sure.
But, yeah, so there's lemon and green apple hand sanitizer that is basically useless in the house as well. But maybe I can spice up some of my drinks with it.
I mean, there you go, maybe. I found a spare hand sanitizer that's probably like 4 years old under my bathroom sink from Bath and Body Works.
Nice.
So we're set over here.
Does it have a fun scent attached to it?
Yes, and I don't understand this, but it's like the scent is like gingham, which is the most Bath and Body Works thing I've ever heard.
Does it smell like you're on a reality show about farming?
Maybe. It mostly just smells nice, like just generally fine.
That sounds like a dumb way of saying it smells like laundry or something.
I think that is probably what they're going for. I can't remember the actual name of the scent, but it is something like gingham something. But yeah, it's pretty innocuous. It just smells like clean laundry and hands, I guess.
Oh, it smells like clean hands.
Which, if they're clean, maybe shouldn't smell, but whatever.
Yeah, you would hope so. I don't know. I've been hearing a lot of news lately, let's call it news, about WikiFeet, which I'm not going to say that mindworm hit us first, because it's always there, but it is weird that post us talking about WikiFeet a bunch, it just sort of exists in the world a lot right now. Anyway, I hope people stop talking about it again soon, because I'm fine without it.
Well, Um, not really related, but
Oh, good.
speaking, I guess, of people talking about like sexual things,
Okay.
um, there's a new Netflix show that I have been thoroughly enjoying. It is thoroughly trashy,
Okay.
and
What
it
is this
is
show?
called Too Hot to Handle. I haven't
Oh,
seen Love Island, but I think it's basically Love Island, and you can tell me if I'm correct. The premise of this show is we get, I think there are six people. It's, yes, maybe it's six. Anyway, they have like six hot guys and gals together on this island, and they're all like very traditionally hot, like Instagram looking people.
yeah.
And and like there's actually a fairish amount of diversity. I don't know. I went anyway.
Yeah, that's always tough to say for those shows.
It's like okay, I guess we have an Australian dude. We have a lady from the UK, from like I don't remember where she is in England, but she's from England.
Okay.
We have someone from Ireland, and then I think the rest are from the U.S. But I could be wrong. Anyway, that aside, the premise of the show is that there's a sex ban. They're they're
Wait,
all
what was that?
they're all on this island under the premise of it being a retreat of some sort. They don't really say
Okay.
what it is, but they're all there for a retreat. And then once they get there and like mingle for 7 hours, they drop the news that like for the duration of the retreat, you can't uh, fuck other people, and you can't kiss, and you can't masturbate. So that's the whole show, and the
Okay.
the prize is like I think it starts at $100,000, and it's like a bucket that they all share. Like I think they split it up or something
I
at
mean, a
the end.
bucket that they all share is clearly against the rules.
it's I think they split it up uh, at the end, whatever is remaining. But basically, if should somebody have sex or kiss another person,
Uh-huh.
there's like a cash value to each of those things, and
Okay.
they get that gets deducted from their like money sum or whatever. So
Yeah.
like within the first day, these people kiss, and then it ends up costing them all $3,000.
You know, it's interesting the ways in which a free market can create uh, new ways for sex work to exist without calling it that or promoting it
Right?
in any way. um,
We're not
that's
saying that there's monetary value to these things, but if you do fuck, it's $10,000 subtracted somehow.
yeah, you're all free people. You don't have to do anything really. Um, that's weird. I had not heard anything about this show other than the title, like sort of spoken about in general.
Yeah.
Honestly, I do like the premise of watching people who have no problem whatsoever with getting relationships and getting like sexual whatever they want as like
Mhm.
a way of life, having to deal with life as like even just a like pale mirror of how the bulk of people live their lives, where it is like something you have to work really hard to like maintain and achieve, and it
Yeah.
requires for us normal looking folk a level of like compassion and understanding in order to connect with
Mhm.
people. So when people who don't need any of that shit are forced to like live under like the premise of sort of living like that for a while with the promise of getting paid off in addition, it is funny to watch that be like the situation. But
Mhm.
it, yeah, I don't know. I think that is a fun idea and a really weird idea all at the same time.
It's very I mean, it's obviously very like voyeuristic because it is a reality show, and the whole premise is like, will they have sex or not?
Right. And
But yeah.
there's like editor shit where they're like making it much easier and much more like friendly that they do. Like there's
Oh, yeah. Like the whole time they're all. I wouldn't say that they're drunk, but like they give them alcohol the whole time.
yeah,
I think that's pretty standard for your reality TV show. Is that everybody's kind of like, you know, something is
right.
going on. But yeah. I what's really interesting is the different. They don't really go into people's like jobs or their lives outside of this, other than the I guess what's the word? The criteria for being on the show is basically that you're hot and that you these people are all self-described like not like sluts, but but they're all like, yeah, I have a ton of sex. Woohoo, like
Yeah.
I'm swiping all the time on these dating apps. Like they're all like basically dating after my job. And so they frame the show as like, we're gonna make these hot people have some real connection. And it's kind of it similarly to The Circle, and I don't know why this is all Netflix reality shows right now, but they all have like kind of a host character, or not really a host, but kind of just this third party that drives things, and it's always like a Siri inside of a box. Or something like in The Circle is like driving things. It's kind of a
Okay.
social network, but it also like talks to you and creates the rules of the game. And in this show, they have like basically an Alexa who lives inside of a cone, and her name is
Okay.
Lana. And
Huh.
she like there's Lanas all over the island, and she basically watches them. Like I guess the cameras do or whatever, but they every night they get together and huddle around this fucking like Amazon Alexa that like tattles on whoever fucked that day.
Nice.
It's pretty cool, but there's definitely something kind of ominous about like, hey, this Siri robot knows when you're macking on each other and is gonna take your money away. Uh, it's it's wild. I don't know how anybody feels comfortable on those shows because there's very clearly cameras like everywhere designed to get everything that happens. It's a reality TV show, so like
Yeah.
at some point people are like taking showers together, and they like blur out the necessary bits, but you know that there's footage of you like taking a shower with someone and being totally naked somewhere. Like
Yeah.
that seems
Interesting.
kind of I guess you just gotta be okay with that, but
I feel like in the same way that I would be that so I've explained this before. All of my general shyness is based around like uh, sort of uh, not exactly inferiority complex, but like fear of being presentational. But when it comes to things like doing painting and to a degree like music and stuff like that, I don't care. Like for whatever reason, psychologically, that doesn't bother me. One of the other things that I often was fine with was the idea of being like a figure model, because when it comes to figure, like really everybody looks awful in most cases from every angle except for like a couple. So like
yeah.
for me, I know that I look fine from a few angles, but I also know that everybody on Earth looks like garbage from most angles. So like
Yeah.
it's totally okay, and it comes from spending like 3 years plus of my life staring at naked people for hours and hours, at least a couple times a week. Like
Yeah.
you just know after a while, it's like, oh yeah, it could be the hottest lady or the hottest guy you have ever seen, and like for example, maybe their testicles droop so low that if they do certain angles, they just like hit the floor. It's not an old guy, but I guess that's something that you have to worry about if you're human. And that kind of stuff is really funny to me. So like when it comes to being like in a situation where the presentation of you is like used as like a funny thing or like a thing to like provide emphasis, I don't find that to be a problem. Like,
Mm-hmm.
And it would be great if a show like this could have people that are in our position who, I don't know, just happen to have the right abs or something for them to be like, they're perfect. But they just accidentally get a completely regular person on one of those shows who lives a normal human's life where you have dry spells for like a year at a time and don't really think about it except for being sort of frustrated by it.
Yeah.
And then put them in a place of like these people who just are able to walk outside and receive whatever it is they're looking for. That would be a really funny show. But I feel
Yeah.
like it's getting into that territory of like the fuck, what was it was like Average Joe or some shit. The like let's pretend the show is The Bachelor, but really it's a poor guy that we put nice clothes on. Uh, so when people uh, do potentially like get far enough into the show and it's down to like one or two people. I want to say it was like the last three people. I was young when this happened, so I don't remember very well, but there was a certain point in the show where they revealed that he was actually like very poor and like
Mm-hmm.
he did like yard work or something for a living, and like by very poor I mean like made like maybe like 40 or 50,000 a year doing a job that they were good at, not like poor but like not rich.
Right.
uh, and all of these people who are like vying to get like his affection in the show, I want to say like 90% of the people in it were like had a gold diggery streak in the same way that they pick people for those shows. Uh,
Yeah.
and and I don't remember exactly, but I think the other part of it was that if they did stay with him, they would both get like I want to say it was like $1 million or some ridiculous amount of money anyway. So like it was actually going to be sort of what the show was about. But at the same time, uh, if nobody got with him, he just got the money and nobody else did. Uh, I still
I
think
mean,
I still think that premise is kind of great in like a sort of sardonic way, and I
yeah.
would love to see the return of like incredibly crass and sarcastic ways of just I don't know, still being shitty reality TV, but maybe forcing people to talk at least a little bit about something like maybe capitalism and relationships don't mix very well.
Yeah.
Uh,
I like show. Yeah, I would be
yeah.
interested in more shows like that.
I mean, it's not like reality TV is going to go away, so we might as well do something interesting with it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this show is extremely hot garbage. Oh
It
well,
sounds great.
it's I don't know. All of these people are hot to the point of where it's like you're not even they're just not they're like so I don't know. They're just like so weirdly attractive that they're not really attractive anymore.
Right.
Mostly I say that for like the women, but the guys are fine, I guess. But I think it's really funny that the whole rule of like you can't no masturbation, they make them all sleep in the same room to police that.
I mean,
So
that does make it easier. I don't think that I would be comfortable, like, hey, check it out.
I just think it's really funny, but like people are still, I don't know, doing. I don't. That hasn't been a thing yet on the show. I think I'm only 2 or 3 episodes in, but um, it's worth watching, I guess. If
Yeah.
you like The Circle, it's fine. It's in that vein. Or oh gosh, what's the one that I just watched? Love Is Blind. If you watch that one,
Oh,
um,
yeah.
yeah, it's up your alley. They have a couple of characters that have kind of established themselves as like the villains, which is always enjoyable. One girl, her name is Francesca. She's like said once that her entire job is Instagram, and like she makes enough money off of that to the point where she doesn't really care about the money at all. So
Yeah.
she's just going around like basically at this point trying to get them to lose money, which is pretty awesome. She like recruits her friend Haley, who seems like kind of to be into her anyway, but they've kind of formed like a duo, and just to get back at some of the people they've like made out and lost everybody like $3,000. It's horrible and it's amazing. So
I like the general idea behind that as much as I like any of those types of shows. It sounds entertaining, at least.
Yeah.
What you're describing sounds like the character selection in like an action video game. Like, which of these like hot people do you want to be? None of them look interesting. None of them have any qualities to their character really besides they exist. But the one that kind of looks like you, maybe you'll relate to.
Yeah, that's very much kind of how it is. They don't, I don't know. I'm only a couple episodes in, but they don't really have any they don't really have any confessional talking head sort of things that really give them an insight into their personalities so far, other than just to say, man, I'm so horny right now. Like, that's kind of the extent of it. There's one girl I really like that she was the first one to be introduced on the show, and she walked into the show saying, "Hi, my name's Chloe. I'm really dumb." And that was like it. She like has branded herself as a complete airhead in her own words, and that's just like, hey, you know yourself. That's great. Just yeah, it's awesome. And she ends up kind of not getting, she's sort of getting with him or talking to him, interested in a guy named Bryce who lives in a houseboat in Los Angeles.
Okay.
And they have a really fun back and forth where he's like, "Oh yeah, I live in a houseboat in Los Angeles," and she's like, "Wow, I really don't even know if that means does that mean you're really rich or are you really poor?" That was pretty fun.
This sounds like if there were a show that I had a coworker that because of the immense amount of like thought that went into this shitty company, just a regular ass office company with incredibly shitty morals. I didn't work there for super long, but I worked there for like a year plus in all, and they would just, in your teams, they would just seat you next to whoever had like they seated us alphabetically. So like no interest in like the team you had to work with within your team or like keeping things like flowing properly. It was just, Jess, you sit next to the other Jesse. I was like, great. And she was the like basically the person you're talking about in these shows, like an amalgam. She worked that job and clearly didn't feel like she should have to. She besides being like the very like hot girl summer look of just like, okay, you have your lane and you're sticking to it, I guess. Yeah. She also would like any chance she had, instead of working, she would just talk about like I don't know, stories that kind of informed of like how hot you should know she is, I guess. And then in the process, she would constantly be eating like free food from the like office monkey workstation of like, hey, stay here and work. Like So we would have like all of these like shelled nuts and stuff that you could go get cups of for free, and like a weird like office bar of things, and alcohol and soda and all that kind of shit. Anyway, she would just sit there and eat like pistachios and throw the shells like basically over her shoulder. So when I would get up to like go get anything, there would just be like shells and like jackets and all kinds of shit underneath where she was working.
That's not how pistachios work.
No, but also
or being a human works.
Well, yeah. She told me a story at one point because she heard that I was a painter about there was a giant portrait of her, I think was a photo, but maybe it was some sort of painting. I don't remember. And it was sold to somebody in a houseboat, and she described it as being like a 20-foot square of her nude in a houseboat in Seattle. I don't know if that's real, but it kind of gave the impression that it was, just from like what she was describing, but she never showed me a picture. So, or did she?
Darn.
I don't remember now. Anyway, she was very proud.
She would probably be really upset at the fact you don't remember.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of nudes. I can't remember people just because they're very proud of theirs. And the idea of somebody in a houseboat around Seattle having a giant painting of you nude and that being like the thing in your life is very funny to me. But
lifetime achievement.
She was maybe the laziest and most obnoxious like coworker I've had, at least that I didn't have to deal with. Like, I don't think I ever had to do a project with her, so like that was helpful. But clearly, honestly, neither of us were built for doing a job like that, but her version of not being built for it was very like laissez-faire and strange. That job also included a lot of day drinking that was like encouraged by the company. Very weird. Yeah. Don't work for an office company if you can avoid it. They do pay better than other companies often, but it's at a price of not living anymore, except in that office usually.
Mm-hmm. There is something very ominous, especially the day drinking. That's very, very ominous to me. But the here's some free food. Here's all this nice stuff, like perks, work perks. That's oh my god, I hate the work perk language culture. I hate that. That's annoying. But that doesn't really exist here because I live in Idaho. But in places like Seattle where it's like, oh, we're super fun and cool to work for, it's very those places tend to be a little sketchy and not so great on the whole.
The CEO and the COO were both just piles of shit. And I forget which one. I think it was the CEO had like a fake animal skin rug in his glass cube office. So if that gives you any idea of the kind of place it was.
I mean, glass cube office in itself tells you a lot.
Windowed offices are fucking stupid, but also if you're using it to show off your horrible decor, that doesn't help things.
Look how hard I'm not working on my animal rug.
Yeah. For reference,
because I'm day drinking.
When I started working at Nintendo, their office situation seemed like a comfortable and regular down home company after working at the other place, where it was just like, oh yeah, this is like a normal ass job, and like Nintendo in the grand scheme of things is a very weird job. So that past job was especially weird. Also, a lot of happy hours that were like pseudo enforced. That after a while, there was so much alcoholism within those like groups at that company that they like had to start putting hard limits on like what they would and wouldn't pay for at their like weird pseudo enforced happy hours that they were taking us to. Um, yeah, but if you want to play bumper pool against a former Israeli, like, I guess most like strict Israelis are former soldiers in some sense, but that was interesting. Maybe the only notable proud moment was almost beating him at bumper pool, I guess. I don't know. Hard to say what I'm proud of at that place. That was non sequitur. I don't know. I don't have anything specifically that I want to talk about besides that. I'm excited to do some more roasting and pancake experiments now that the kitchen is a free zone for just random ass shit. And the noise level doesn't have to be in regards to people like trying to get computer like interviewing type stuff done in the other room, because I wouldn't feel very comfortable like making much noise while like customer service is happening a few feet away.
Yeah, that is kind of an interesting situation.
It's not bad,
luckily,
but it's different.
Yeah, luckily with Evan, he's in school, so there's not a whole lot of like two-way conversations going on. It's mostly just lectures for him. So
oh yeah, that's
I'm the annoying one.
Were you doing a stupid ass podcast? Shut up.
I did. He did just walk in here, flip me off, and leave. So.
That's just relationship perks. I don't know what you're complaining about.
That's true. Hashtag relationship perks.
One of my favorite.
I think we should.
Yeah.
I was gonna say I think we should just generally retire the word perks. I'm over it.
Yeah, I'd be fine with that. I was gonna say one of the things that I have often enjoyed in relationships where I cohabitate with somebody is finding the weirdest ways to come around doorways, so that you can constantly keep people terrified of what's going to happen next.
Yeah. I think one of my personal favorite ways to go with that is just like having your hoodie on as tight as possible, so you have only this much of your face showing.
I'm a big fan of that one.
Yeah.
One of my favorites, because I'm slightly tall, is if I know somebody's like doing something in the other room, laying on the floor and then using the corner of the doorway to like pull myself into the room. That's always really disconcerting, I feel like.
That's a good one.
If you're able to do cartwheels, you should be careful with it, because I have almost accidentally kicked things out of people's hands because they were walking too quietly, I would say.
There was almost a cartwheel mishap.
Collision. Yeah, it's been a while, but it has happened. Also, if you have a tall bed and it's close enough to the door, you can peer around corners with your head from a position that doesn't make any sense. And I like that one a lot too. There's a lot of peering around corners that I think can keep cohabitating interesting.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we only have about one corner to peer around.
Okay.
But I'll make use of it for sure. I don't think we have room for cartwheeling without some serious bodily harm. But yesterday I almost this is not related to peering around corners, just me being stupid, but
to be fair, a lot of things aren't.
That's true. I was getting out of bed and my foot got stuck in the sheets and blankets, and I completely fucking ate it on the floor. Caught myself with my knee, so my knee is extremely like black and blue and horrible looking right now.
Excellent.
And like very nearly cut my neck on our dresser on the corner. So that was a fun time. Some alcohol was involved, but not like an exorbitant. Mostly it was me like being way too wrapped up in the blankets of my bed.
I mean, to be fair, unless you're really overdoing it, alcohol is never usually the root cause of anything.
Yeah.
You have to put some effort into your cool kick flipping yourself out of bed kind of situation.
It was, yeah, mostly just due to my mummifying myself in blankets habit. So.
To be fair, it's worth the cost. Mummifying yourself in blankets is one of the great delights of shelter in place.
I think so.
Yeah. If it ever gets cold again, I'm definitely going to do my fancy Yeti look and just fully encapsulate myself in blankets for the podcast, but have makeup on so that it's just a weird face sticking out. It's one of my favorite ways to do anything, honestly. That is pretty much my what I would have minus the makeup. I didn't have money for that kind of shit when I was in college, but my look when I would have like time off and was just at home would be fully encapsulated in like a space with blankets and then just a face and like a hand with a controller sticking out of it. It's a good look, and it works year-round if it's cold enough for it.
Yeah, that's kind that's kind of my similar default around here. That just being wrapped in a blanket and then like keyboard fingers, but also just sitting really weirdly. I'm not good at sitting. All of my chairs are not conducive also to sitting for like long periods of time comfortably. So I find myself like crisscross, like sitting feet on the desk in really like atrocious ways. But
yeah, I pretty much do the same thing. Half the time when we do the podcast, I'm sitting on one leg and kind of normal with the other side of my body because chairs aren't built for me, I guess. Also, almost all chairs. So the weird thing about my being tall is that I have more legs than I have upper body in terms of like proportions. So like, even though I am chubby, my upper body is like tapered a little earlier than I think it is in a lot of people when it comes to my full like silhouette. So I look a little less chubby to like general stuff. But it means that when I sit down in chairs, my legs are almost always uncomfortable because it's like sitting down in a chair that's like this close to the ground for a lot of people. So I'm just like this for my lower body, and it's super uncomfortable to feel like you're sitting on a squatty potty for like sitting in a normal chair. So I always end up like cross-legged or something. Natalie has the opposite problem. Natalie has more upper body than lower body, and so Natalie looks very tall when sitting, and I don't. And it is always funny when like working on stuff, and it's like it looks like we are the same height, where Natalie's a little taller, but Natalie is, like 5'10" or something in that range. But like just proportions can do a lot to like skew visual reference and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm kind of more similar to that. Where I think the problem for me is not like a different proportions from like top to bottom, but I'm just generally short, and so sitting in any normal chair, usually my feet hang off the edge, so it's more comfortable for me to be like sitting on my feet or like sitting like this or
Yeah.
some other weird fucked up way. But yeah, I'm sure that's also probably half the reason why my spine looks like this.
You know, all you gotta do is sit cross-legged and wear your weird gun vest, and
Oh
it'll
God.
all work out.
I actually still have that. I probably should wear it more than I have, which is like not at all since I got it.
Yeah. I mean, if you were somebody who wore a lot of like multi-piece suits, it would look perfect for that because it
Yeah,
matches
it'd
the
be more
aesthetic.
normal, but it does really feel like a gun holster when you're wearing
Yeah.
it and enjoy.
Alternatively, wear it and then wear a gun holster over it.
I mean, it's Idaho, so I guess I could.
Yeah. And just keep
That
like
would fit
bananas
in.
in it in case you get hungry.
I
Just a
like that.
banana and a cucumber.
That would be nice at any time to have
Mhm.
bananas and cucumbers easily accessible.
I bet you could get a gun-shaped water bottle for one side of it.
I could just carry around a water gun.
Yeah. No danger in that.
No. No, of course not.
Yeah, whenever I wanted, I could just have some. Is that more
It's
shimmer
not
egg?
shiny at all, see?
It looks about as shiny as like a nut casing. Like it really doesn't have that much shimmer over a camera.
It's very like matte shimmer, which I don't understand. It's like the regular mini egg. Well, actually, I guess mini eggs have kind of a matte covering to them too. But just like a regular candy shell would have more sheen than this.
Yeah.
But it
So
tastes fine.
on the subject of food, how are you getting food delivered to you at all? Is that a thing that you've been doing? Because I
Yeah, probably.
haven't. What are you using? I need you to describe this so I can give myself permission to make food mistakes.
um, I've been using DoorDash,
Okay.
so mm,
I've been like I have like Seamless and stuff like that attached to things that I already own, but I've been thinking like I don't know. I put so much goddamn stupid research into so many dumbass things. I'm looking into like a relative of mine has a pseudo culty thing maybe going on that I'm looking into. All kinds of weird shit like that. That I was talking to Nick yesterday, uh, and he was saying like Natalie and I unfortunately have this weird talent that has been born from like sort of odd hobbies, I guess, of just looking into pseudo cults at this point because we've spent so much time doing it. Um, and I don't know if that's a good talent to have when it comes to like personal sanity and like how I use my time, but it is still entertaining to me. So it's one of those things that's like the art I get out of it is probably worth it. Um, but it takes place of certain things like I don't know, uh, looking into how I can get food gotten to me in an appropriate way and stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't. I the only reason I use DoorDash is because there aren't other food delivery services available here. That's
Oh,
like
okay.
the only one. Um, Speaks to the population size of the place that I live in, but yeah, it's like that, and then just takeout are pretty much the only options here. Which I should probably do that more because I have heard from businesses that like through apps like DoorDash, they take a pretty hefty like commission from that.
Right. Yeah.
So you're like not supporting them as much as you could be.
Uh,
Um, and also what I've seen from DoorDash, it seems like they're generally taking good care of their people, although I don't know, like,
Yeah.
truthfully. So,
I think
um,
the real answer is that I should order stuff or takeout if I'm gonna do it and just go for a walk and make that part of it. Um, I just it's such an appealing thing. Like one of the
yeah,
very few perks that comes from our shitty gig economy is that potentially I could get something delivered and just receive food. And I already have, like, for going to the store, a decontamination area with like uh, alcohol wipes and like a section of the house that isn't used for other stuff, so that it can be like a little bit more risky, but it
yeah.
also can be like, a place where I can transition things into the rest of the cleaner household. Um,
Hmm.
and I should probably, not be an asshole and stay the course on like keeping clean and not putting other people at risk and all that kind of stuff. It's just very appealing. If
Yeah, I'm
I've often said if
I'm
there was a
torn.
chute that I could just order food from and it shot into my household, that would be
That
ideal.
would be preferable. If we could just create some sort of like hamster tunnel between my house and all of the food places,
Yeah.
that would be ideal. But yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of torn, because on one hand, uh, I I don't know. I should probably. I guess my only argument for things like DoorDash is that, um, people still are working on it because they need the money,
Right.
and like I protest the reason that they have to work through this. Like, that is shitty and it sucks. But I think that the best I can do if I'm going to use DoorDash is just like tip well if you can. And obviously the way that they're doing their drop-offs now is like there's no contact or anything, so
Yeah.
ideally there's no risk there. But yeah, I think you're probably right. The best thing to do is like take out, and then under that, a food delivery service, but like tip well if you can, I guess, if you're able. But
Yeah. I don't know. Ideally, it would be a situation where those places would either be getting proper benefits through our working uh, economic safety net from our government,
uh-huh.
or they would all be on strike so that they could get actual rights as workers instead of being gig economy like pseudo slaves. I know that that's not exactly an equivalency, but it is one of those things of like, in much the same way that for example, got a fairly considerable raise, uh, but it was specifically seemingly for the purpose of making sure that I still wouldn't receive health benefits. And
Yeah.
then the side effect of that, which who knows if they're related in any way, but it is a side effect, is that my income-driven repayment for my loans is now able to like get a little, because literally I wasn't making enough money for them to take money from me. And now I'm making enough money to where they can sort of get some of the benefit that I would be getting as their own thing, which is like
Hmm.
frustrating in and of itself because I'm already saddled with that debt for the rest of my life. It would be cool if at least that was just shitty and not like actively taking away from my ability to like say pay rent / feed myself, and
Yeah.
especially when it comes at the cost of me getting fair medical coverage or any real medical coverage through my work, because that's the only way I can get good medical coverage. And now I can't get it because, they don't have to, which is sort of a good microcosm for all of capitalism if you want to think about it that way.
Yeah. I think that, yeah, that sums it up
Yes.
pretty unfortunately well. Um, ooh, I hear propellers or something.
Oh, on my end? Yeah. It's a
But
it's
anyway.
a motorcycle, and the only motorcycle I've seen recently was the one owned by the guy who was hard making out down by the park last night. So maybe.
That'll be $3,000, please.
I wish. I wish catching them would pay me. I would be out there looking for it every day.
Binoculars.
Sniffing benches, looking for tracks.
No. Oh, God.
Out there in a fucking sleuth outfit with a magnifying glass. This doesn't look like Morning Dew. What are you doing out here? Somebody else under that coat?
Sorry. Internet.
Yeah, there's a certain face that you make that is very clearly everything I've said for the last 10 seconds is like maybe there. And you're better for it, honestly.
I don't like that. I don't like that at all. I'm gonna purposefully change up my kind of confused face from here forward, so it's less obvious.
I'm gonna start up confusedface.com, and we're gonna start taking videos and seeing when things get weird or people don't understand stuff. It'll be our version of WikiFeet, and then we can feel good about it because they get advertising revenue.
This is true. I do actually realize that I think I did flash my feet on here about 5 minutes ago. So this is your chance, Internet.
I was going to say something and then I decided not to. I'm sure that both of our feet exist on the Internet somehow, somewhere, because that's what happens.
I'm sure. Hopefully they give my feet a good rate. I've been told I have strange feet. So I would like to be redeemed by WikiFeet if at all possible. Please.
I can stick up my middle toe on each foot like it's a finger. And I know that there is at least one image of me somewhere on the internet of me sticking up both fingers and both middle toes simultaneously, all like in a row in front of my face. So like guaranteed, if people really wanted to, there could be just the worst WikiFeet entry ever out there.
Or alternatively, it's like number one, the best.
Yeah, I haven't looked, so it's possible. Just
ranked number one on WikiFeet. You're probably infamous somewhere or famous. You're probably you might be a meme. That sounds like something that could very easily be out there.
There's worse things to be memed for than your given 4 cold ones at once.
That's pretty good.
But yeah, my body's a dystopian nightmare anyway, so there's lots of things that I can do that shouldn't be done.
That would be an interesting podcast to recount the weird body things. I don't think I can do too many interesting weird body things. I used to be able to like twist my arm around and make it that it looked like I was bending it backward. I can't do it anymore. That might be it for me, actually.
Interesting.
You're welcome. This has been Madison's Weird Body Things Corner.
When I was younger, so I don't know what's wrong with me exactly, because when I say when I was younger, it's not like I was really young. It was like I was a teenager and like a 20-year-old. Like it was not young. It was like my body should have been pretty much normal, right? And I had this issue where, because I was doing a lot of sports and stuff, and it's a very bright airhead. And the the problem that I had with a lot of like stretches and stuff was that while I benefited from some of them quite a bit, there's always that like seal stretch where you would like stretch out your stomach to make sure that you didn't get like cramping and stuff like that. And I never felt anything. Like it was just always, it's sort of in the weird way that like I can push my stomach out like a pretty considerable distance. For some reason, the muscles in my stomach are strong, and I don't know why. I kind of blame it on anxiety because I'm always trying to compensate for my weird, like, body proportions by having all of the muscles in my stomach taut at all times. Like, even if I'm just sitting down alone, I'm like usually fully flexed on my stomach for some reason. I don't know why. And it's not something that I can really adjust. Like every time I try to relax it, it feels weird to me. And it's definitely not a brag because it is not, I do not have any sort of like cool stuff going on down there. And
brag about your anxiety-induced abs.
Right. But one of the things when I was younger that was noticeable was that I never got anything out of that stretch. And what I sort of started doing and realized was weird later was that if I laid on my side instead, I could stretch my feet around and put them on the back of my head. So I could kind of make myself into a weird backward circle. And that provided a stretch in my stomach. So I would do that instead. And then I found out later that that's not normal, I guess. I don't know, maybe it's normal for other people out there. So feel free to chime in if so.
So you'd be like laying just like horizontally and you'd like go backward like that and your feet would touch your head?
Yeah, so like if I were laying on my side, I could just kind of curl backwards and turn into, let's say, a human onion ring with a face on the outside of it. That's probably a good picture of it.
That's a great visual.
Yeah.
Interesting. No, I don't think that is normal. I have a
Okay. I mean, fair. It seems judgy, but
you said to correct you if I knew otherwise, and I don't know otherwise. So I think you're right. That is weird. Your suspicions are confirmed. Well, and I can say this with some authority because I did gymnastics for a while, and I know of like different weird fucking contortions, and that's not one that I ever did, or anyone I know ever did.
I also had to actually like on purpose stop sitting. You know, like sitting cross-legged, you can sit the opposite, where like your knees are bent outward and your legs are along the sides.
Yeah.
So I did that until I was like in my 20s, and I had to purposefully make myself stop doing it, even though it was the only way I felt comfortable sitting for a long time, because like it started getting pointed out that looks super strange. And honestly, like, so I also have like my hip joints are sized weird and will like pop out of joint and stuff like that. So there's all kinds of things that seem like, aside from also having a lot of lower body, the pieces of it fit together okay. So that's probably part of it.
That seems to be a thing that that I hear from a lot of tall people.
Yeah, I think it's pretty common for like people who are taller to just have shitty bodies.
Well, on behalf of the short people, I'm sorry. That sucks.
Yes. Hey, good news though. We also live shorter lives, so it's weird and it's short and it's just the way. So really, we all are equal in that way.
Yeah. I don't know what like disadvantages short people have other than just being short, but that's not always a disadvantage.
I feel like it's an advantage, like especially with how many people there are in the world. Being short seems good. Like the only reason you'd want to be big is, I don't know, to impress people. I'm not really sure.
Right. I could like I could do with a couple of extra inches.
Uh-huh.
Spat everywhere. Just because I'm on the short end of short, so I could deal with being a little bit taller. But I do think the only time that I truly wish I was taller is like at a concert, and I only do that like, I don't know, once every 6 months. So that's, I think the trade-off is fine.
Yeah, I will say going to concerts is nice because I can stand anywhere, and as long as I'm sort of back to a wall, or at least off to the side far enough to where I'm not in the center blocking like radius, I'm very comfortable because I can see everything. uh, and
Mm-hmm.
Especially when I started going on dates that would be at like shows and stuff like that, it became very apparent that like people who are not very tall have a very hard time uh, like finding a spot where they can see anything. So I spent my whole, especially because I
Yeah.
was about this height when I was like 12. Uh, I I was able to go to shows and just see everything I wanted to see every time, which is, as I found out later, not the norm for going to shows.
No. I've yeah, I think it's caused me to prematurely be over live concerts just
Yeah.
because I'm small, I get trampled, I don't like it. It's not fun. It's not a great experience unless you can be at the front as
Yeah.
a short person. It's not fucking worth like trying to get there because it's just nasty. Especially if you go to concerts with what, like, I don't know why my mind is making a correlation between these two things, but like I went to see the 1975
Yeah.
um last year. And I when I think about their fan base, I think like probably mostly girls, and then I think probably like younger girls, so like generally kind of short. I don't know why that's like how I think of it, but
Was that inaccurate?
no, I
Okay.
was accurate. So like that was confirmed to be pretty much the case, but it was like just a sea of kind of people generally my height, and
Uh-huh.
then everybody else who all the smart people who were back like sitting on the tiered
Yeah.
seats, but my friend and I wanted to get really close, and we ended up just being in like the middle and not really seeing a whole lot of anything.
Yeah.
And yeah, people are like fainting, and it was not great. I think I'm over the what do you call that? Like mosh pit standing in that area, general admission, whatever it is.
I'm not a big fan of getting pressed up against very big sweaty guys. So like especially because a lot of the shows that I liked were like, uh, around Seattle we had like the Catheters and At the Drive-In and Murder City Devils and like a lot of these bands that are extremely good. Like Schoolyard Heroes, I think also broke up, but they were really good too. But all of those shows had basically guys that were often my height and often very big around that were part of the like crowd, and they were almost always moshing and they were almost always covered in pointy shit and often extremely
That's
sweaty.
nice.
As a person who doesn't sweat very much ever and also has like sort of built, there are times when I will be more sweaty, but it's like rare for me, where like I live with somebody who uh, was incredibly sweaty leaving this morning because they had, I don't know, they existed. And I know that that is the situation for a lot of people. Like that is a pretty normal like
yes, fellow
thing.
sweaty person here. Yes.
But it was a shock to me when I was younger, I sweated even less. So I like when I would play basketball, I would be like slightly damp on my forehead, and then like my shirt would like be slightly damp. But like it was never like, oh, I'm sweating a lot. It was always just like, oh, it's weird. Like you get kind of wet when you do a lot of stuff for a while. And then seeing people who are like walking around not doing anything, but it just happens to trigger that they're like sweating.
Mm-hmm.
Having that realization by being pushed up against people who are covered in human liquid really is upsetting when you don't know that that's even an option.
Yeah, I don't like that. I don't like that at all.
So
also,
even when I was younger, I started sitting after a while because like fuck that.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's also a smallish subset of people who go to concerts with their significant others with the like intention of just making out hardcore the whole time. And that's been the case pretty much at every single concert I've ever been to. And I'm not a fan of being around that at all. Please keep me out if you're weird. You need like a good radius around you of no people for that to be okay.
Yeah.
And I just generally at a concert don't do it.
Yeah, I made the mistake when I was younger of once again with the type of music I was into, at least for shows, always picking whatever was the most awkward. And so the people that I would meet that might want to go to a show with me were either, what is this? This is uncomfortable, or, oh yeah, I'm really into freak dancing. And whatever that means to you, it isn't good. Like if you go to a place with somebody and they want to freak dance, maybe pass. Like it's basically the like, I don't know. If you could turn awkwardness into a physical like dance, I would say freak dancing is even more what that is than like your standard like making fun of nerds dance. It is awkwardness incarnate, and it's also extremely close and extremely unpleasant for the most part.
Yep. I agree.
But that was my option for people who wanted to go to those shows.
Yeah, I'm all for getting into concerts and like dancing a little bit, but also my version of getting into things and being excited is probably just your standard jumping up and down kind of dance. So that's yeah, anything outside of that really close to me. I'm not really a fan of that. I've had a lot of drinks spilled on me. I think that's a short people thing too.
Yeah, if you get drinks spilled on you as a tall person, it's usually onto your legs, and like, who gives a shit?
Yeah, I've had stuff dumped on my head. Less good. It's less good.
Yeah.
But I guess a good thing I don't have to deal with that for a while.
Yeah, everybody hates that.
Yeah.
Having a lot of people around doing something together.
Yeah, now that I have been shitting on the experience of going to a concert for 20 minutes, I'm really bummed. I actually did have 2 concerts get canceled that I was supposed to go to in the next 2 months. Yeah. So that's less good. Not nice, but
yeah, I think whatever. The big art show in Seattle that I always get weird free tickets to that I didn't really ask for, but I'll take it because they're fucking expensive. I think that got fully canceled recently, even though it takes place in like August.
Weird.
Yeah, I think it was like there just wasn't a way to set it up or something, and I think maybe they start some of their stuff early. But that's a bummer because that's like a thing I look forward to every year, especially now that I'm part of the art community and get like an email every year that's like, here's your free all show like 4-day passes as requested by no one. It's fantastic, but it's also like I don't know. I feel I didn't take it for granted necessarily, but I feel very left out now that that's not there. And then I don't know. There's a lot of like plans for like art, like events and stuff that just can't happen anymore, and that's probably the biggest like letdown of this whole thing for me. The
Yeah.
the death toll is bad, but it hasn't hit me super hard because not a lot of people that I know personally are in that position or like super sick. But hopefully that is just the truth, and because people that I know generally aren't doing stupid shit while this is happening. Living in Kirkland, there's certainly space for that to happen, but hopefully it doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully not. But to go back to our original topic from 30 to 40 minutes ago. I do give you outside permission to order a hamburger.
Okay, that's good to know.
If you needed someone else's nudge.
Well, I mean, I have the decontamination zone set up, so I feel relatively comfortable with that.
Yeah.
And so I have like a zone where any groceries that come in, whatever bag they're in, is underneath like a chair that's being used as like a platform. And then the table next to it has like a large size like figure drawing board slid over it, and that's the only space that you're allowed to set things on before they're clean. And then behind the chair, there's a open bag, and all of the like wipes and any other packaging that is unnecessary goes into that bag for getting rid of later. So like it could work the same way for the food. I just need to like remove it onto another eating surface and stuff.
Yeah. That's a good setup.
Yeah, I just happen to have enough space for it because it was previously set up to house like art projects, but because the house is now mostly devoid of any visitors, and also, I mean, it is devoid of any visitors, and then it's also long-term projects being set up, you know? There's other places for a lot of that stuff to be, so like that space isn't necessary and is better used for that. The resolution being sort of poor on our like feeds, it gives a really good look of your hair actually having like a triangular side to it with the lamp.
I've been noticing that, and it's been making me really angry. I've been trying to like lean away from it so people don't think I have. It is like the I said it earlier. What's his name? Jimmy Neutron's mom. Except I guess she has like curly at the end. But yeah, very triangular.
Yeah, I think she has the flip, like the.
Yeah, there's like a curly Q thing. Yeah, I've been trying to avoid that. I did have a similar haircut in high school, but it was executed really poorly, and so my head was shaped like a triangle, and all of my friends called me Dora for a really long time, and I hated it. So
I mean, that sounds pretty good.
Yeah, it was great.
Did you walk into rooms and go, Aubrey?
No, that's a complete missed opportunity. I should have.
I feel like you could have really dug into that one.
I should have. I was just too preoccupied with not being happy with the hair situation.
At least it didn't look like a situation from like Arthur.
Like DW?
now that everybody's favorite Crowder has ruined Arthur forever.
I don't actually know anything about that.
About what? Steven Crowder, that's his name, the asshole, like dumb right wing guy.
Yeah, I don't know. Is this related to the thing where they had the gay rat wedding?
No, he was a voice on Arthur.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Uh, which sucks. I mean, like, my first instinct was to say, like if somebody was a voice on VeggieTales, but there's plenty of reasons to dislike VeggieTales.
Give me one.
That Where Is My Hairbrush song, that's one. If you want to stay out of the religious discussion.
I don't see how you could possibly dislike that song.
Also, VeggieTales is just a poor person's Muzzy. Muzzy is the real place for educational business.
That's true. I would say that's true.
It's proven.
I was privileged to have both VeggieTales and Muzzy.
Oh, your majesty.
So speaking of the Where's Your Hairbrush song, that's one of the things that was sung like around my house very innocuously, just walking around. So
I think that's a lot of people.
I have some fond associations, but it's unfortunate. Yeah.
Yeah. Thankfully, there was enough of a foothold for like Ren and Stimpy in my household that we had other better things.
Yeah, I've never seen that or pretty much anything. Well, at this point I've probably seen but haven't watched a lot. Anything that was on like Cartoon Network, I was not really allowed. Those were like the bad cartoons.
Nickelodeon had Ren and Stimpy and All Real Monsters and like Rugrats and stuff. And a lot of those, so those kind of spawned out of Canadian companies, and a lot of those like artists and stuff like that went on to make a lot of stuff that is more popular now in some fashion. But Ren and Stimpy has a lot of problematic stuff in it, mostly just because there's like, honestly, extremely unsurprisingly, allegations of like unfair practices towards some of the women who work there, because it was sort of like a lot of old animator people who wanted to do new media. So like there is some tainted bits of that, but there's so many people who kind of contributed to that work that I have less problem with it than some other stuff. And it was such a like anti-establishment, like asshole kind of thing in some ways that I have a hard time really holding it to some of those standards that maybe I would if I were less familiar with it.
Yeah.
But it was really good, and All Real Monsters might be a perfect cartoon, honestly.
I've actually never even heard of that, so
yeah. That was one of the
chance
least
for me
popular.
to get some education.
All Real Monsters, if I can find a way for you to watch it, I'll try and give you those links. It was like somebody tried to distill the weirder parts of what Halloween would be into a show, and I honestly feel like things like Monsters, Inc. Basically took that set of premises they had and said, what if we stole all of this and made it into a money-making machine? And I like Monsters, Inc., but All Real Monsters has a lot of like vague similarities to it that are kind of hard to ignore if you're familiar with both. In the same way that like Kimba and Simba are kind of egregious.
Yeah. Well, I'll have to familiarize myself at some point.
Yeah, I'll try and forcibly get you there through through internet bullying.
Yeah, I respond well to that. It's too late for me to get into Harry Potter, but maybe these maybe these cartoons that I was
Yeah.
deprived of in my childhood.
Yeah, this is the wrong time to get into Harry Potter, so you're good. Um, fuck, did I send you that look at Hogwarts, the School of Faith and something or other? Uh, it's fan fiction about a religious Hogwarts, and all the characters are changed just enough to fit into like Christian society.
No, you didn't send me that.
Well, looks like you're going to be receiving some stuff soon.
Yay! That'll be a good palate cleanser after I watch my You're Banned from Sex TV show.
Yeah, I might have to watch that too because that sounds very stupid. So.
Oh, it's so horrible. But yeah, I'd recommend it.
Okay.
Let me know your thoughts if you do.
Definitely. I mean, we'll probably talk about it if it's worth talking about because that sounds stupid enough to follow up on for sure.
Yeah.
And so. If I can find a way to do it, you can follow up with me on your thoughts on Crumb and Oblina and whatnot.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, I think that it might be about time to bid the thoughts farewell for this week.
I agree. Now, almost 3 hours in. I do like that our COVID pods are very long.
I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah, it does. All right. Well, stay safe. Thoughts, I guess.
Uh-huh. Yeah, but jabbers.